Okay, in the last video we discussed on HTML. We saw what HTML is all about and the basis of HTML. And in this video we'll continue with more on HTML. We'll be looking at the HTML template in the VS Code. So this is my VS Code. Now when I want to start writing a document on HTML, I'll create a template for HTML, and there are two ways through which you can create it. Either you you click on Shift and 1, then enter. This is the simplest way to get it. So this is just a template for writing HTML documents, and we'll just run briefly to understand what this template is. So in this chapter we'll show some basic HTML example. So the document, like I showed you in this previous slide, all HTML document must start with a document type. That's the doc type, indicating that this is HTML. For example, the first line, number 1, you have the doc type HTML. It indicates that this document is HTML. Then we have HTML, the language is English. Then we have the head element. Inside the head element we have some information. We have the meta set, we have the content, we have the name and the content, then we have the title. Now this title indicates what you are working on. Maybe you just want to create your website, you can just title it like my website. So it just indicates whatever you want to work on, my website. So having said this, we'll be looking at elements. We're going to look at what is an element. So an HTML element is defined by a start tag, some content, and an head tag. For example, this is a tag, this is an element. So an element must have an opening tag, content inside it, and a closing tag. There are some elements that doesn't have closing tag, they are just self-enclosing. We'll look at them subsequently. So in this example we'll be looking at elements, and some of the examples we are seeing here is h1. That's the head. When you want to, just like a normal PowerPoint Word document, we use h1, the headers. In coding we also use h1 to indicate our heading. Then there is p for paragraph. And down here there are other elements. There are h1 elements, there's p, then there's br. That's it doesn't contain any content inside of it, and it is self-enclosing. It doesn't have a closing tag. So I'm just going to open the VS Code and we're going to look at some of these things. So now, after the head element, there's what we call the body element. Now this body element contains everything you'll be writing. Whatever structure you are making for your website will be contained inside this head element, a body element. As you can see, the body element has a closing tag which I just highlighted, and an opening tag which I just highlighted, and this is a closing tag. So now inside the body element, let's start. Let me use h1 element. So when I type h1 and enter, I don't need to start typing it, the opening and closing tag. So once I type h1 and I click enter, I'll be able to like get both the closing and the opening tag. All I need to do is the content I want to be in there. So I'm just going to name it my website. Then I'll save. Ctrl S. I have saved. Now for you to view this now in your browser, you will either, there are two ways through which you view it. Either you go to view, okay, let me just give it the easiest way. We just go to extension. Here there's an extension we call live server. So you just install it. Once it opens, live server is opening. So once you install it, it'll be easier for you to run your HTML document in the browser. I think I'm having a network issue here. So let me just show you another way through which you can open it. Down here there is go live. Okay, I can't find it here. So I'll just run it. I'll just go to run. I'll just start run without debugging. So I'll use my Chrome. You can see it. I'm using Chrome. I have another option to use Edge, but I'm using Chrome to view it. So now you see whatever I'm writing in my VS Code will be appearing here as I'm writing when I save. So this is my H1. The H1 comes size by sizes. There is H2 elements. H2. Let me write my website. There is H3 down to H. Okay, so the H3, my website, we'll just see the difference of the H1, H2, and H3. So I'm going to run again. My live server is not coming up. I'm having a network issue. And then on your own end, when you check down here, you will see go live. You can easily go live. I can't find it on my own screen here, so I can only run. So I'll just have to run again. Okay, I'll just refresh it. Okay, you can see this is H1, this is H2, this is H3. You can see the size is decreases as I keep increasing the header tag from H1 to H2 to H3 down to H6. So depending on how you want it to be. So this is just the difference between from H1 to H6. Another thing I'll just show you before we continue is the paragraph element. The P element is known as the paragraph element. This one can use it to write any lorem. Let me just. So I've written a paragraph and have saved it. I go to my browser. I go to my browser, I refresh it. So this is a paragraph I've written. This is just a brief introduction before we start fully on element. So I've shown you the H element, which comprises of H1 to H6. Then there is the P element, which is a paragraph. In the next video, I'll be telling you more about elements, the attribute contained in various elements. Like I told you initially that some elements are empty elements. They don't have closing tag. They are self-enclosing, and some of them don't have content inside of it, while some comes with an attribute.